How long will Israel be forced to defend both its borders and its character, while terror groups get a global pass on accountability? Well, as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza deepens, international pressure on Israel has intensified. Yet while the world focuses its lens sharply on Israeli military strategy, far less attention is paid to the asymmetric realities on the ground, particularly the role that terror groups like Hamas play in obstructing aid and prolonging civilian suffering. Israel continues to operate under immense security pressure while also taking measurable steps to facilitate humanitarian relief. And under the leadership of the United States President Donald J. Trump, the United States is reinforcing its strategic and moral support for Israel, reaffirming a position that upholds both national security and the right of democracies to defend themselves. Well, let's take a quick deep dive into the three core developments shaping the conflict in the Middle East this week and across the rest of the globe. I am Star Smart and welcome to the Flash News. In a significant operational shift, the Israel Defense Forces IDF announced daily tactical pauses in specific areas of northern Gaza to allow humanitarian convoys to pass safely. The move comes amid growing alarm from United Nations agencies over malnutrition rates and food scarcity in the enclave. According to UNICEF, the agency could potentially reach 98% of Gaza's malnourished children, provided safe access is maintained across key border crossings, while Israel has opened designated routes and coordinated with aid partners. Challenges persist on the ground, including insecurity in Hamas-controlled zones, destruction of infrastructure, and reported diversion of aid. Israeli officials have emphasized that these pauses are part of a broader effort to separate humanitarian support from militant activity. Meanwhile, international observers are calling for shared responsibility, urging all parties, including armed groups, to ensure the safe delivery of aid without political interference. Now, the United States military deployment of Terminal High Altitude Area Defense THAAD systems to Israel this month marked a critical support measure and increased missile threats from Iranian-backed groups. Now, while the interceptors effectively neutralized incoming ballistic threats, the United States defense analysts have noted that the rapid usage rate has placed pressure on the United States missile inventory, particularly given rising global security demands. This has spurred urgent discussions in Washington about accelerating production and restocking key defense assets. In response, the Trump administration has prioritized rapid industrial ramp-up of key missile systems, aligning with broader efforts to restore American military readiness. Officials close to the White House confirm that maintaining security commitments to allies like Israel remains a top-tier strategic objective. Now, while Israel faces scrutiny, we see Syria proceeding with elections backed by Iran without global outcry. As Israel is subjected to intense and international debate over its wartime conduct, Syria's Assad regime, supported by Iran and Russia, has quietly announced parliamentary elections for September 2025. Rights group and international observers have raised concerns that these elections will be neither free nor fair, given Syria's long-standing suppression of dissent, imprisonment of opposition voices, and centralized control over electoral processes. Yet the announcement has drawn little to no condemnation from major international actors, highlighting a clear double standard in the global response to conflict-related governance. While democratic Israel is continually held to account, often under active fire, autocratic regimes with documented human rights violations continue to function with limited scrutiny. This disparity reflects a broader challenge, ensuring that international norms are applied consistently, regardless of geopolitical alignment. Now, the situation in Gaza remains deeply complex and volatile, but amidst the headlines and diplomatic statements, one question continues to echo. How long will Israel be forced to defend both its borders and its character, while terror groups get a global pass on accountability? Under President Trump, the United States has reinforced a firm, clear policy, one that supports Israel's right to self-defense, while also pushing for transparent humanitarian coordination and responsibility from all actors involved. The international community now faces a test of its own, whether it will continue applying pressure selectively or begin confronting the broader, often uncomfortable realities driving the ongoing crisis. Well, over to the United States politics and away from the war in Gaza, we see that as the world navigates an increasingly volatile geopolitical landscape, President Donald J. Trump's second-term foreign policy strategy is once again centered on assertive diplomacy, fair trade, and American strength. From negotiations with the European Union to realign defense partnership in the Middle East, the Trump administration continues to emphasize mutually beneficial cooperation, with America's interests front and center. Well, here is a breakdown of the key political developments this week from Washington. We start with the United States and EU avoiding trade showdown as Trump secures framework deal. Well, President Trump announced this week that the United States and the European Union have reached a framework for a new trade agreement, easing fears of a potential tariff war that could have disrupted markets on both sides of the Atlantic. The negotiations held in Brussels between Trump and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen centered on eliminating industrial tariffs, simplifying customs protocols, and creating a fast-track channel for resolving trade disputes. Analysts note that while the deal remains preliminary, it has already succeeded in diffusing tensions and restoring investor confidence in the US-EU economic cooperation. The president emphasized that any trade relationship with the United States must be reciprocal, fair, and anchored in the shared democratic values.
We've had a very good relationship over the years, but it's been a very one-sided transaction, very unfair to the United States. And I think both sides want to see a bit fairness, but it's been a very, very one-sided deal, and it shouldn't be. And so we're here with her very brilliant staff, and hopefully we'll resolve a few issues. It's a great honor. You know, we just built this ballroom, and we're building a great ballroom at the White House. The White House has wanted a ballroom for 150 years, but they never had a real estate person. You know, no president knew how to build a ballroom. But this just opened, you know, relatively short time ago, and it's been quite the success. And I think I was just saying I could take this one, drop it right down there, and it would be beautiful. This is exactly what they've wanted. But it's an honor to have you at the new ballroom at Turnberry. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Well, the White House has also confirmed that further sector-specific talks, particularly on technology, agriculture, and digital services, will continue into the fall. As of July 28, 2025, the United States and EU officials have acknowledged the framework as a diplomatic breakthrough, though full ratification remains pending in both legislative bodies. Trump and von der Leyen agreed it was a big deal, and we can hear that in this video.
We have a deal. We have a trade deal between the two largest economies in the world. And it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It will bring stability. It will bring predictability. That's very important for our businesses on both sides of the Atlantic.
It's a very big deal. It's the biggest of all the deals.
Well, still with the United States, we see that in another development, signaling strengthened Gulf relations, the United States and Qatar signed a memorandum of understanding formalizing the unconditional donation of a Boeing C-17 military transport jet to the Pentagon. The agreement signed in Washington between the United States Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and his Qatari counterpart stipulates that the United States will not bear any cost for the aircraft, which will be used in strategic strategic logistics and humanitarian operations. The Trump administration hailed the move as evidence of growing defense cooperation with regional partners and a model for future military diplomacy. It also reflects Qatar's commitment to strengthening United States-led regional security frameworks, particularly in the aftermath of heightened threats from Iranian proxies in the Middle East. While observers say the deal is notably not only for its financial efficiency, but also for reinforcing a broader Trump-era shift towards allied burden sharing in United States defense policy. The memorandum, confirmed by United States defense officials, is one of several recent moves involving in-kind contributions from Gulf partners in support of joint operations. From Europe to the Persian Gulf, President Trump is steering United States foreign policy with the familiar approach: firm negotiation, clear boundaries, and strategic advantage. The new United States-EU trade framework shows that America is capable of securing deals without sacrificing national interest, while Qatar's donation reflects trust in the United States leadership and a shared commitment to security without fiscal overreach. With global alliances being tested, we see the Trump administration's doctrine remaining consistent. America leads through strength, not apology, and the world, even in tension, continues to respond to just that. Now on to Asia, we see that from democratic resilience in Thailand to renewed tensions in Southeast Asia, Asia's political currents continues to draw international attention. As the United States pivots to reinforce alliances and deter conflict, the Trump administration's policy of peace through strength is again proven central to maintaining regional balance. In a major political test this weekend, Taiwanese voters rejected a nationwide recall. The recall effort that targeted more than a dozen lawmakers from the opposition Nationalist Party. The attempt, largely driven by pro-government groups, aimed to shift the parliamentary balance in favor of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. The result preserves the opposition parliamentary presence and signals that Taiwanese voters are wary of political motivated recalls, preferring institutional stability and democratic continuity over partisanship. From Washington, the outcome has been interpreted as a positive sign of Taiwan's democratic maturity. The Trump administration continues to reaffirm support for Taiwan's sovereignty and democratic governance, while urging restraints in the Taiwan Strait amid China's growing military presence nearby. The recall vote was held on July 26, 2025. Official resorts confirmed that the motion failed to pass in the majority of districts targeted. And then over to Cambodia, Thailand's border tension. We see for the fourth consecutive day, Cambodia and Thailand have exchanged fire along the disputed border zone, triggering concern across Southeast Asia. However, shortly after the escalation peaked, President Donald Trump announced that both nations had agreed to enter ceasefire talks brokered by the United States, warning that ongoing hostilities could jeopardize their trade access to American markets. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has announced an immediate ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia following urgent trilateral talks in Putrajaya. The breakthrough was marked by a rare joint press conference featuring leaders from all three nations, Malaysia, Thailand, and Cambodia, signaling a diplomatic push to resolve the most and worst border conflict in Southeast Asia in over a decade. The ceasefire, mediated under ASEAN's regional security framework, addresses escalating tensions around disputed areas such as Priya Vihar Temple and Tamwon Tom. This move is seen as a major step towards regional peace and stability, especially amid rising global attention to Southeast Asia's strategic role in international trade and diplomacy.
We may now proceed with a joint press conference. I would like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia to deliver his statement.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Malaysian government and ASEAN, I must express my deep appreciation and gratitude to both my close friends and associates, the Prime Minister of Cambodia, Samdech Hun Manet, and the Prime Minister of Thailand, Phumtham Vichayachai, for not only being present, gracious enough to participate in very frank discussions, very passionate about securing peace. And due to their efforts and participation, we have seen very positive development and results that would augur well for Cambodia and Thailand and for ASEAN. The government of Malaysia, Cambodia and Thailand issued this joint press release following the special meeting chaired, hosted and witnessed by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim in Putrajaya and participated by Cambodia's Prime Minister Samdech Mahaborbor Tipadai Hun Manet and Thailand's acting Prime Minister Phumtham Vichayachai, and co-organized by United States of America with the active participation of the People's Republic of China to promote a peaceful resolution to the ongoing situation. Prime Minister Hun Manet and acting Prime Minister Phumtham Vichayachai have expressed their positions and willingness to immediate ceasefire and return to normalcy.
Well, the United States diplomatic intervention is being credited with prompting an immediate de-escalation as both governments signaled readiness for dialogue and restraint. While tensions remain fragile, American officials are working behind the scenes to facilitate a bilateral agreement focused on deconfliction, trade, security, and joint border governance. Well, analysts say this marks another example of Trump's transactional yet effective foreign policy style, leveraging economic influence to deter armed conflict and stabilize relationships in volatile zones. The Cambodian and Thai foreign ministries have acknowledged the United States' involvement in back-channel diplomacy.
The United States President Donald J. Trump has been in contact with the leaders of both countries, urging the leaders to find peaceful resolution to the conflict. The Chinese side have kept close contact with Cambodia, Thailand, and Malaysia and relevant countries to actively promote dialogue, ceasefire, and restoring peace. The presence and collaboration of all parties underscore a shared commitment to peace, dialogue, and regional stability. Both Cambodia and Thailand reached a common understanding as follows. 1. An immediate and unconditional ceasefire with effect from 24 hours local time, midnight, on 28th July 2025, tonight. This is a vital first step towards a de-escalation and the restoration of peace and security. Second, to convene an informal meeting of regional commanders, Regional Military 1 and 2 on the Thai side, and Regional Military 4 and 5 on the Cambodian side at 7 hours on 29th July 2025, which means tomorrow morning at 7. And followed by meeting with defense attaches led by the chair of ASEAN, if both sides are agreeable. And 3, to convene a meeting of the General Border Committee, GBC, on 4th August 2025 to be hosted by Cambodia. As the current chair of ASEAN, Malaysia stands ready to coordinate an observer team to verify and ensure its implementation. Malaysia will also consult with fellow ASEAN member states to participate in the observation effort, reflecting a regional commitment to supporting peace on the ground. Both sides also agreed to resume direct communications between both prime ministers, foreign ministers, and defense ministers. The foreign ministers and defense ministers of Malaysia, Cambodia, and Thailand have been instructed to develop a detailed mechanism for the implementation, verification, and reporting of the ceasefire. This mechanism will serve as a foundation for sustained peace and accountability.
Oh, well, that was it. The agreement for these three Asian nations. And away from Asia onto Africa, we see that while Africa often escapes sustained international attention, escalating violence and extremism across the continent continues to raise questions about global prioritization and consistent diplomatic engagement. The Trump administration has renewed calls for targeted action against jihadist actors threatening stability and religious freedom. At least 21 people were killed during a brutal attack on church grounds in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, reportedly carried out by militants affiliated with the Islamic State. The victims were attending to a regional revival meeting in the town of Oicha, North Kivu province. Local civil society groups say the militants used improvised explosives before opening fire on worshippers in what has become a tragically frequent pattern of anti-Christian attacks across the region. Well, the United States Department condemned the assault and confirmed that intelligence sharing with regional partners is being expanded on the Trump's revised Africa Security Partnership Initiative, ASPI. The administration is also pushing for increased counter-terrorism funding and operational training in African states dealing with insurgent violence. Human rights advocates are calling for a more coordinated international response to religiously motivated violence, stressing that such incidents often go underreported or receive delayed global attention. The attack was confirmed by both the DRC government and international watchdogs on July 26, 2025. The Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, affiliated with ISIS, are believed to be behind the assault. Now, across Asia and Africa, the forces of extremism, authoritarianism, and geopolitical rivalry continue to challenge regional peace. The Trump administration's approach, assertive diplomacy, strategic economic leverage, and alliance building remains central to navigating these fault lines. In Taiwan, democracy withstood pressure. In South Asia, Southeast Asia, United States diplomacy is averting open conflict. And in Africa, the call for moral clarity and action against terrorism has been renewed. Stability is never a given, but with steady leadership and principled alliances, it remains within reach. And onto the rest of the globe, we see signals from the margins when climate isolation and provocation converge. As dominant headlines orbit the Middle East, Asia, and Africa, key developments elsewhere continue to shape the trajectory of international security, environmental urgency, and diplomatic engagement. From wildfires threatening a NATO partner to missile tests defying international norms, the global stage is anything but quiet. Southern and southwestern Turkey are currently battling one of the worst wildfire seasons in recent history, with blazes tearing through Mughla, Antalya, and parts of the Aegean coastline, fueled by record temperatures, dry winds, and under-resourced firefighting systems. The fires have displaced over 15,000 people and burned more than 30,000 hectares of land. The Turkish government has declared a state of emergency in 3 provinces, calling for international support. President Erdogan, while managing domestic criticism over slow response times, has accepted technical firefighting assistance from several NATO allies, including Greece and Spain. As of July 27, 2025, Turkey's Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, AFAD, confirmed over 110 active wildfires across 13 provinces. The unfolding environmental disaster underscores the strategic need for climate-resilient infrastructure in NATO territories and highlights how ecological crises can destabilize border regions already facing political strain, refugee pressure, or even ethnic tension. The Trump administration, while not offering direct deployment of United States assets yet, has pledged logistical aid and aerial surveillance support to help contain the crisis. Analysts view this as part of President Trump's allies first, not aid forever approach, extending support without eroding United States resource discipline. Now, North Korea fires another ballistic missiles. While this is going on, that happens over in not Korea, with Pyongyang's isolation deepening. Now, in a provocative move early on Sunday morning, North Korea launched another intermediate-range ballistic missile, the IRBM, over the Sea of Japan. The missile reportedly landed outside Japan's exclusive economic zone. Well, the United States Indo-Pacific Command confirmed the launch and condemned it as reckless and destabilizing. President Trump, in a brief White House statement, reiterated that America will respond with strength, not ceremony, reaffirming the administration's maximum realism doctrine towards North Korea containment without capitulation. The missile launch occurred at approximately 5:42 a.m. JST on July 28, 2025. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff and Japan's Ministry of Defense have issued joint alerts to regional partners. The test marks Pyongyang's third major missile launch this quarter and reflects Kim Jong-un's renewed push to extract global concessions through intimidation. The move comes amid deepening Russian, North Korean military ties and China's quiet reluctance to rein in its isolated neighbor. But then United States officials are now in closed-door talks with Tokyo and Seoul to expand missile defense cooperation, enhance intelligence sharing, and possibly reinforce joint military drills in the region. Steps likely to escalate tensions but reinforce deterrence. Crises do not compete, they converge. Now, while the world's attention shifts from one flashpoint to another, these regional developments, climate emergencies, rogue provocations, democratic resilience, and terror violence reveal a deeper truth. Global stability is now a moving target. Under President Trump's leadership, we see United States policy is increasingly guided by a simple premise. Peace is preserved through clarity and not confusion. And as the Middle East burns, Africa bleeds, Asia recalibrates, and Europe sweats under literal and political heat, the call is not for passive commentary, but for principled, proportionate action. The world is watching, but more importantly, it is waiting for leadership that knows where to stand and when not to blink. And with that, we've come to the end of today's Flash News. Coming up next at the top of the hour, 8 p.m. is Undaunted, bringing into the news untold story. But with that, we say thank you for watching. We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images.